The city lights were a blurry watercolor painting through the rain-streaked window of the bar. It was past 2 in the morning, the kind of late where the world feels both deserted and strangely alive. My phone was dead, and the last train had long since departed. All I wanted was my bed. Then, like an answered prayer, a taxi pulled up to the curb, its for-hire sign glowing like a beacon in the downpour. I didn't hesitate. I yanked the door open and slid onto the cool leather of the back seat, a wave of relief washing over me. "Thanks for stopping," I mumbled, giving him my address. The driver just nodded, a slight dip of his head visible in the dim interior light. He was wearing a dark cap pulled low, obscuring most of his features. Not unusual for this time of night. The car pulled away from the curb smoothly, the rhythmic thump of the windshield wipers, the only sound. We drove in silence for a few minutes. The streets were empty, slicked with rain and reflecting the neon signs of shuttered shops. Primeralia, Ned backed my head against the cool glass, watching the city drift by. It was peaceful, almost hypnotic, but then a strange feeling began to creep in, a subtle wrongness I couldn't quite place. The air in the cab felt heavy. Still, the driver hadn't said a word, hadn't even coughed. He just sat there, a rigid silhouette against the passing streetlights. Curiosity got the better of me. I shifted my gaze from the side window to the rearview mirror, trying to get a better look at the person driving me home. The mirror was angled slightly, reflecting the empty back seat next to me and a sliver of the driver's face, or what should have been his face. My heart seized in my chest. Where his eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, there was nothing. It wasn't just shadow. It was an absolute void, a patch of pure, featureless darkness, as if someone had cut a hole in reality itself, right there in the shape of a human head. It didn't reflect the light. It swallowed it. The cap he wore cast a shadow, but this was different. This was a physical emptiness. I blinked hard, convinced my tired eyes were playing tricks on me. I looked again. The void was still there, a chilling, perfect, terrifying nothingness. Sitting behind the wheel, I could feel the blood drain from my face. My breath hitched in my throat. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Was I dreaming? Was I still back at the bar, passed out in a booth? I quietly pinched my arm, hard. A sharp sting of pain confirmed I was awake. Terrifyingly awake. The car continued its steady pace, turning onto my street. The driver's hands, visible on the steering wheel, looked normal. Veins, knuckles, fingernails. Just regular hands. But they were attached to arms that led up to that. My mind raced. Should I scream? Should I try to jump out of the moving car? Every horror movie I'd ever seen flashed through my head, each one ending in a terrible, bloody finale. My own streetlights were now gliding past the window, familiar and yet suddenly alien. We were getting closer to my building, my front door, my safe, normal apartment. The taxi slowed to a perfect stop right in front of my lobby. The engine hummed quietly. The silence was deafening. I sat frozen for what felt like an eternity, my eyes locked on the rearview mirror. The faceless void remained unmoving. The fare on the meter glowed an eerie green. My hand trembled as I reached for my wallet, pulling out a handful of bills without even looking. I threw them onto the front passenger seat. "Keep the change," I whispered, my voice a dry croak. I didn't wait for a response. I fumbled with the door handle, my fingers clumsy and numb. The moment the lock clicked, I threw the door open and scrambled out into the rain, not daring to look back. I sprinted to my building's entrance, jamming my key into the lock with shaking hands. The door swung open, and I stumbled inside, slamming it shut behind me. I leaned against it, gasping for air, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I waited, listening. I heard the taxi pull away from the curb, its sound fading into the night, leaving only the soft patter of the rain. I never saw that taxi again. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm the last one to leave the office, I'll choose to walk the long way home, even in the rain. Because I can't shake the image from my mind. The image of that driver, with the night sky where his face should have been. And I wonder, if I had looked for just a second longer, what would have been looking back? Thanks for watching. If you have a story that keeps you up at night, Share it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more strange daily. Stay safe out there.